Hello everyone. Today we're going to be working with completing the square. What completing the square does is it shows you what the zeros are for your quadratic model. However, it does so when you have a quadratic that is prime. In other words, you can't use the diamond method. It doesn't work. Or double factoring. That doesn't work either. So let's look at an example and work through the steps. So here is our example. X squared minus 12x minus 30 equals 0. So let me show you why this is prime. I'm going to try to factor it using the diamond method. The diamond method because there's a 1 in front of the x squared, so I don't use double factoring. So start with my diamond, put my c value on top, my b value on bottom, list out what my factors are for the top, which would be 30 and 1, 15 and 2, 10 and 3, and what's another one? 6 and 5. So we're looking for ones that have a difference of 12. Well, if you add 6 and 5, you get 11, not quite. If you add 10 and 3, you get 13, not 12. 15 minus 2 equals 13 again, and 30 plus 1 or minus 1, that's just going to give you 31 or 29. None of these add up to 12. So we don't know what these are. Therefore, we have to use the completing the square method. So let me show you how to do that. I'm going to erase this first so we have a clean board to work with. And let's look at our steps over here. The first step is to divide everything by a. Remember, if we write out what we have for our coefficients, we have a is 1, the number in front of the x, b is negative 12, and c equals negative 30. So step number 1, it said divide everything by a. Well, a is 1, and when you divide anything by 1, it's the same thing. So I'm just going to write x squared minus 12x minus 30 equals 0. So I divided everything by 1, and I got that out. Next step, put the variables on one side of the equal sign. So that is the x squared and the negative 12x. So I'm going to write it. Step number 2, x squared minus 12x. I'm going to leave a space there on each side so I can write my third step. But looking at this, we have the x's on the left side of our equal sign and the numbers on the right side. We do this because this is where we're going to be completing the square on the left side. And how we do that is right here. Step number 3, we want to add the quantity b divided by 2 squared to both sides. Those are going to go in these spots right here. Oh, and briefly, how did I get the 30 on this side? I added 30 right here. Added it to both sides to bring it over there. So step number 3, write everything the same. This blank spot, I'm going to take b, which is negative 12, divided by 2, and square it. All right, right here. And I'm going to do that in both of these spots that I set aside. Okay. Next, it says to simplify it, so make it easier to work with. So x squared doesn't change, 12x doesn't change. Negative 12 divided by 2 is negative 6. Negative 6 squared is 36. So I'm going to write plus 36. That's also 36, and plus 30. Step number 5 is to factor it. What we mean is factor this left side, because you can do that now. You can do this in a couple ways. What you might be used to is the diamond method, so you may want to set it up like this, with 36 on top and negative 12 on the bottom. Then you would put 6 and 6. Those are negatives to factor it. An even easier way is to follow this form. It's simply going to be x plus b divided by 2 that quantity squared. So, number 5, we're just going to write x plus, what is b? b is negative 12, divided by 2, and square that whole quantity. That's what this whole part right here is. And we saw it's going to be the same thing, because when we simplify this down, it's x, not a plus actually, it's a minus 6 squared. And what's on the right side? Well, let's just simplify it down. 36 plus 30, that's 66. All right. In our last step, solve for x. What that means is we want to square root it and move that 6 to the other side. So let me do that right now. We have x minus 6 equals plus or minus the square root of 66. And now I'm going to move this up here a little bit. And I'm going to add the 6 to both sides. So x equals plus or minus the square root of 66 plus 6. And that's your answer. What you would want to write it in, though, is actual decimals, actual numbers, rather than the radical. So what I would do now is this. In my calculator, I type positive 66 plus 6, and then I would type negative square root of 66 plus 6. I would type these two things into my calculators. What I'd get out would be negative 2.12. Oops, let me switch these around. This first one would be 14.12. Second one would be negative 2.12. And right here is my answer. You could write x equals 14.12, comma, negative 2.12, or you could write it with these brackets. It doesn't really matter. You still found the answer. So these are the 6 steps you want to follow. Divide everything by a, put all the variables on one side, add b divided by 2 squared, simplify it, factor it, and solve for x. In the next video, it shows us a little bit more of what we mean by divide by this a. So this is all we have for this video with completing the square.